Hey everyone, happy Wednesday. I'm Chris Castleman here with the Coos County Citizen Council Wednesday live stream. Brandy has a dinner date because it is her birthday, so she will not be joining us. But I'll get right into it. I have four special people with me tonight. I have the four candidates for the North Bend School Board running. They're all incumbents, but they're running a pretty important race. So without further ado, I'll bring them on the screen and let them introduce themselves. Hi guys, how's it going?
Good.
Hey, good, Chris. Thanks for having us. I'll introduce myself first. I'm Jim Jordan. I'm married for, goodness, I think 34 years to my wife, Adrian. I have three adult children, two of which have fortunately moved back to New York, to North Bend, and are working in the area. And this is home, and I'm invested in this community of North Bend.
Very cool. Glad to have some people come back to our community. That's always a plus.
Good.
Hi, Chris. Mary Schilling, position 2. I've been married to my husband, Rod, for almost 35 years. I love our community and I love our school district and looking forward to 4 more years. Thank you.
Mary, you and Rod are very involved in the community. Rod is I think he's on the library board in Lakeside, and he's fighting some battles there, I believe. But sorry, I interrupted you, Julie.
No,
Go
I'm
for it.
sorry. No, my apologies. I'm Julie Thies, and I'm incumbent. I'm currently sitting in position 6, and I'm up for re-election. I am mostly for parents' rights and education. I want to be the parent advocate. I want to be able to have the parents understand and know what's going on in the education system, and for them to be aware of the curriculum that is chosen, and hopefully they can get more involved. I know parents are busy, but I just want to be able to be their voice as a representative for them.
For sure. Parents need to be involved, and the government needs to get out of their way, is what I think. So we got one last person there on the left.
Hi, I'm Dallas Petenbrink. I'm running for position number 4. I've been in the area since 1992. I'm a Marshfield graduate. Don't hold that against me, North Bend. But here running for position 4. My big things here are the finances and behaviors for students, and making sure that and standards. We really want to put standards back in school. So that's what I'm here to run for.
Got to raise those standards. And you were on the weren't you on the budget committee of the college, SWAC?
I wasn't on the budget committee. I was actually president of the AFT classified union on campus there. So yeah, that's what I did for them. Now I'm an IT consultant and a business office manager for an elder care facility. So
very cool. I think I thought you were on the budget committee because we talked about numbers so much, and I just figured you had all that knowledge. But all right, very cool.
Spent a lot of time helping figure out those numbers between the union and the college, for sure.
Well, thanks for introducing yourselves. And I think I would just want to jump into what is at stake? Like for North Bend, we have these school board elections. I think it's every 2 years, and they're important. But why is this election more important than others in the past?
So if you guys don't mind, I'll take this one. All right. So I mean, the biggest thing right now is the city of North Bend just came out throughout the county. They had to go through all the taxing districts, and they needed 75% of the taxing districts to approve a URA. We are 29% of the taxing districts, which means if we say no, their URA request is denied. So we spent a lot of time with the city trying to understand everything that was going on. And in the end, there were some inconsistencies with what we were being told and what the citizenry was being told, and what had come back to us, and the fact that the money that they were asking to quadruple basically the URA from 11 million to 45 million, and that goes to that's increasing the tax for the community without a vote of the community, and that money is controlled by unelected body, right? So once we say yes, then nobody has control over anything.
Wow.
So that's a little scary to have that power. But they were asking, there was a lot of inconsistencies. We asked a lot of questions, spent a lot of time with them, and in the end decided that it wasn't in the best interest for North Bend. The city didn't like that. They spent a lot of time on Facebook, the mayor, her husband, the city manager, speaking out against us specifically, and they spent some time recruiting, and they found 4 candidates to run against us. And so if you want to talk about important, if you're worried about the taxes for our community for the next 30 years and what the city's going to look like in 30 years, this is kind of an important election, because if they can get 4 people in, there was a single vote in our group already who was not up for election, so that would give them 5 votes. If they got all 4 of their candidates in, they'd be more than able to pass the URA. And again, that is controlled by an unelected body. So nobody who's elected would be accountable for $45 million in the city of North Bend.
That's crazy. That's a lot to unpack. So you've got not only a huge financial decision, but you have a city that was told no by the duly elected school board. And instead of saying, hey, this is what the people have decided, because I don't know how much there was no poll, you can gauge the social media room, right? It's one room, but it seemed like there was a lot of public support behind the decision that you guys made. And you have the city deciding, hey, we didn't like that, so we're going to go and essentially flip the board. It's not illegal. I don't even think it's immoral, but it just doesn't seem like they understand, like they have a good feel, like they don't have a good connection with the people, with their tax base, with their voter base, like you guys seem to. And I think that's a big area of concern. And I'm going to throw up on the screen really quick. This is just for people. The Urban Renewal Agency pulls money from other taxing districts into a fund that can only be used for certain purposes, and like Dallas was saying, is run by an unelected body. And these are the yearly amounts. This is based on fiscal year 23, so these have actually gone up a little bit, but these are the amounts that are coming out of different taxing districts. So like for Coos County, I believe that number is actually $50,000 a year now. And that's $50,000 that can go towards something that the county thinks is important, like maybe law enforcement or something. So I don't know if you guys wanted to talk more about that, because it is very important, and it is, at least to me, pretty concerning that the city would try and essentially take you guys out.
Well, I mean, you have to wonder, what the folks' motivations are, right? Are they purely for education? Or are they there to support their friends in the city council to get the URA passed? So we're here. We've been a part of this board. Most of these guys have been here longer than I have. I've only been here a couple of years. I came in the middle. But our motivations are purely for the students, and that's really what we've tried to do. We've tried to, add in things to help students for graduation rates, our student test scores, and things to help move that forward. And I'll let Jim talk about those. But our motivations have been for students, not for passing a URA. That's not why we all came into this. The URA was sort of one of those things we all wish we didn't have to vote on, because it's such a big ask for all the other taxing districts when you're talking about $45 million, and to be on the hook for that. If I say yes, if they say yes, we won't really find out for years if we were right, if we were wrong, and then our community is saddled with that decision for 30 years.
30 years.
Yeah, 30 years is a long time to be saddled with the decision that nobody who's elected will be accountable for. So
that was really unfairly put onto your plate. I mean, it legally had to come across your school board because of how much of a big stake your taxing district has. But they really kind of bullied you, is my opinion. And then the way they went after you guys online, especially Michelle Roberts, she did her research and she is allowed to hold an opinion, and she put out a big lengthy statement based on the investigation and the facts that she found, and they ridiculed her. They put a 7-page paper together and they posted it on their city website, like a 7-page dissertation, like analysis of her one little social media post. Just
What a
very,
waste
very
of
odd
their
tactics.
time. What a waste
Yeah.
of taxpayer money for them to sit there and do that.
Yeah, from what I
Very
understand,
interesting, right?
it was written
Who
by
wrote that?
ChatGPT.
by AI. I mean, it might have been. It's actually something you can do these days. You can put a PDF or a piece of text into the AI and say, come up with a rebuttal. And David Milliron did do a course for all the city staff on how to use AI. So you never know.
Yeah.
But
I think the other thing that's at stake in this election is the type of governance the citizens of North Bend School District want. So, we are conservative. 2 years ago, the board elected or selected a new superintendent, and he came on board 1 July 2023. And then in August, we had a board meeting and we came up with 2 goals for the new superintendent, and that was academic achievement. That was goal number 1, the primary. And then the second one was student behavior. And the reason student behavior was on there was because of the huge impact that student behavior has on academic achievement, and then teacher job satisfaction and retention. So that's been the board's, our focus. We talk about it a lot. We talk about metrics and really having a program that attracts students. So, we have a great music program, band, career technical education. We have quite a few offerings at the high school that attract students from out of the district. And Oregon demographically is faced with declining enrollment. So, an aspirational view for us as the board is that we're a destination district due to the academics which we're working on in all our schools, and the strength of the offerings in our programs. And I got to say, we got a great team of administrators and teachers that are the tip of the spear and that are dedicated to our students. So
Yeah.
it's pretty cool. I came to one of your meetings and you guys had I guess like a student representative talking there, and you see the band guy. You see the one who gets all jazzed up. All right, very cool. You guys, yeah. I mean, that's a small sample size, but you guys are doing a good job getting the students involved, it looks like. But yeah, what do you guys? What are some like big accomplishments from the past, I guess, 2 years that you guys have been together? And what do you, if you're all on for another 4 years, what do you hope to accomplish?
Yeah.
I know that's very open-ended. Sorry.
Yeah, I'll talk first, and then the rest of the board can chip in. So one of the things, school security is a huge issue. We want, we're in favor of having school resource officers. We had one, and when we got together as a group and brainstormed, there was kind of a couple priority things we wanted to work on, and school security was one of them. And we ended up, one of our administrators worked with the police department, and we got a grant, and that grant has allowed us to get a second school resource officer. So that's great. We're happy with that piece. Another thing is the state of Oregon removed graduation requirements, and that's the governance in the state went with a long. We were probably one of the hardest hit with lockdowns. I would say top 5, top 7 in the nation statewide. So that's had a lasting impact to our students. And the state removed graduation requirements where, essentially we had, you had to prove competency, and it was, through essential skills testing, or you could do work samples. So the board said, hey, let's reinstate graduation requirements on a voluntary basis. So there's another diploma you can get. You can get rather than the state of Oregon State diploma, you can get a North Bend diploma, and that's for students who voluntarily select to meet the standards that were formally in place. So they could do that either through essential skills testing, the state tests, or work examples. So
I really like that idea. That's pretty cool. I
Yeah,
think that's pretty cool that you guys did that.
and I think our students, many will remain here. Maybe they'll leave a short time, come back, but many will compete for jobs with other students from other states. And you really want you don't want to be the state. Well, aren't you guys that you don't have any standards to graduate? So I think for those students that want to choose that path, it's there for them.
Well, let's get into something maybe more controversial that shouldn't be controversial. I think it was Julie had mentioned parental rights, having parents involved. I don't know why this is a controversial topic, but if you guys wanted to touch on that, what are your views on how involved parents should be with schools? How much transparency should they have around the curriculum? Should they be able to see the curriculum? Should they have input on the curriculum? What do you guys think about parental involvement?
Well, it is difficult to get families to be involved because everybody has to work, and the last thing anybody really wants to do is sit down and do homework. So it's hard to be able to have that time and ability to go over that information. I'm going to try to get as much information available for parents through the Parents' Rights in Education, just to have a link to information to be able to look that up. I just want parents to be able to know how they can help their students feel safe, be safe in schools. And there's a lot of stuff coming out from the, I guess, government, for lack of better words, in Oregon that makes some students feel unsafe and some special priorities given to others. I just want them to be able to know how to handle that and navigate the laws that are written and to be able to use those to their ability.
And Chris, when we are having new curriculum, the books are available in the admin office and anyone can come in and look at those. And that's what I like about our transparency.
Yeah.
And if you talk about just parental involvement, we just recently went through a strategic planning session where they brought in the entire community, and it started out with a very large group and then kind of whittled it down until we got the strategic plan that we have. So we really went to the community for that. So that ended up with a lot of families being involved, a lot of students being involved, business leaders and leaders in the community coming in and also being involved to help guide the students for North Bend and the direction that we're going to be going.
We just finished that up after about 4 months of working on that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was
How difficult is it? Like, how much of a pain is it to put stuff online? Like, I know people have requested that teachers put all of their material online, have it accessible for parents. Is that doable? Is that something that's even in the realm of possibilities?
I don't know. I don't know what the schools are able to do. As far as technology goes, I'm very inadequate as far as learning how to do all that kind of stuff. So I don't know if our teachers would have the ability to put stuff like that online. It's clearly going to be a lot of information if they have that. I'm sure the curriculum that we buy always has, it has links and stuff that come with it and support. So I don't know why that wouldn't be available to have parents have access to that. If the teachers have access to it, I don't know why it wouldn't be available for parents. I don't know how to make that available, but
yeah, I mean,
should
of
be
course,
an
syllabus
option.
is probably something at a bare minimum.
Well, I know in higher education, that's something that's going to be there. They have an LMS or a learning management system. In K through 12, they don't have an LMS, and it may end up being a bargaining issue It may be something that they're not required currently to do. And if you're asking, to change what it is that teachers need to do. So that part I'm not familiar if they're required to or not. I know during COVID, they found different ways to get to that, but that was a temporary and kind of an emergency way to communicate with their students. So, once students come back to the classroom, they're not required to do it that way. So I'm certain that there's a way to be able to get that stuff online if it's something that is feasible. I mean, it's obviously worth talking about. If parents want that transparency, you're going to get it, moving on. So maybe not in the younger grades, but maybe as you get into high school, maybe be able to see a little bit more, to make it more like what you're going to be going into if you decide to go into college or something else. But currently, I don't think it's part of their game plan for every year, and I don't think it's in the bargaining contract.
Well, if parents have questions, they can always go to their teachers.
Yep.
And they're more than happy to help.
That's an interesting point, is the bargaining power that a union has. How has it been the past couple of years? Have you had to do a union negotiation? Is there one coming up? I'm not familiar with that process.
Yeah, there's one that's, I think, nearing completion for the certified teachers. So every 2 years, you're bargaining with either it's a cycle where this year it's the certified, the teachers, and then 2 years from now it will be the classifieds, which includes educational assistants, some maintenance crew, things like that, administrative support.
Yes.
So every 2 years, you're bargaining with someone.
Yep, we're in the middle of one right now, so hopefully they're getting it all finished up.
I think it's very close to being done.
So you guys can punt on this question if you want, because I know you guys are sitting school board members and there's probably legalities and you might not want to talk about it, but people are very interested. It's a big topic right now, men in women's private spaces, men competing in sports, men in the locker rooms, things like that. Is that a topic you guys wanted to talk about, or do we want to move on to something else?
I'm willing to talk about that.
I think we all are.
We're not doing any board work, so I don't think it's any issue. I don't believe that should be allowed. I think that females should feel safe in their changing rooms, and I don't believe that males should be allowed to compete in female sports. I also don't believe that females should be allowed to play in male sports. There are differences, though. There are co-ed teams that exist, and I don't have a problem with those. However, I do believe that there should be changing areas where people are in a state of undress to be able to have the privacy, and that should be allowed for safety reasons, and not be encouraged and allowed for them to be in the same areas at all, period.
Can't even believe we're having to talk about this, it's a weird time we live in right now.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
I guess just for me on that, I believe the case law in Oregon, it varies state to state, is that yes, you can choose whatever you identify as. So personally, I don't think that biological men should be competing against our girls or biological boys. I'm a big believer in Title IX. I think it's wonderful. I think that girls have worked very hard, student athletes that have worked, all their young lives to get to a very high level, whether it's in track, whatever they're competing in. And they should be the one to win those awards. It shouldn't go to a biological male, and it may involve scholarships and future, educational opportunities. It can have a big impact.
And the thing they haven't talked about is, so at North Bend High School last summer, they went through and redid some of the bathrooms and made them single use. So they're not blended bathrooms anymore. So you go in, use the restroom. There's no worry of having to spend that intimate space with somebody that's not of your gender. And so everybody can feel safe in there. I mean, you have the right to be who you want to be, but when it comes down to, just like these guys are saying, competing, I respect who you are and who you want to be, but when it comes down to competing, I consider myself a feminist. I think women have worked hard, just like Jim said, to get to those places. And the last thing that they want to do is to lose out on something they've worked their entire life for, on a boy or a man coming into their space with a biological advantage and making them obsolete in their own sport. So I think they need to have the chance to excel in their own sports. Men should have the same. If there were enough folks to start a league that don't identify either way, or would like to have a blended league, like you were saying, that would be another opportunity to have another sport for a school. And I can't see that a school wouldn't want to do something like that. I would support that if they wanted to have a league that actually had students that were non-binary, trans, whatever, and you want to have your own sport that way you don't have to compete, boys against girls or girls against boys. You have your own league. I think that's perfectly okay.
And I guess I have a thought just generally on students, our students coming to North Bend School District. So my view on all the students is this is public school. Mm-hmm. So, you show up at North Bend Public School, you're welcome and accepted as you are. And I believe that all students should respect the other students. And I think all our staff should respect the students. And likewise, the students should respect the teachers. And that, in terms of the respect, that's probably one of the, I'm 65, so I came from a different age. and the concept of not respecting your teachers is just a little foreign to me. So that may have been lost between when I was educated at a wonderful public school system in New York and now. So and that's one of the things that we have these meetings, and we you'll hear from the union rep of the teachers. You meet teachers in Safeway, and I want to say the number one topic that gets shared with us is student behavior, and it is just a huge issue. And I mentioned earlier, it has huge effects on teacher satisfaction and retention, and keeping our teachers, keeping them, wanting to come back year after year. So
when you
Chris,
mention respect, and I think that's I'll let you go, Mary. Go for it.
Oh, I have to agree with this group. I personally believe that females should compete against females. It's a very unfair advantage otherwise.
For sure. And yeah, that was just to go back on the respect thing that Jim was talking about. That is key, because you want to respect people, and you want to respect how they feel, who they think they are. That's something you want to respect. But I also, I have to be able to respect that somebody might not want me in their private space, and I have to be able to respect, no matter what I feel someday in the future, that you have to respect people's perseverance and dedication in sports, right? If women are competing in sports, part of the reason we have them compete at a young age is to teach them these things like dedication and perseverance and excellence, right? Being able to balance a sport with academics, right? Being able to do two things at once and still do well in school. And then all of a sudden, you start, that's why you have awards. That's why you have trophies. That's why you win things to show that you've been doing a good job. And then if all of a sudden I hop on to the women's swim team or something and compete, and I start winning, and I didn't, I'm not competing on the same fairness plateau. You know what I mean? I'm coming in at a different level, and I'm able to win those things without having the same sort of dedication and perseverance that women are. And I don't know if I'm articulating that well, but this is just an insane thing to me. And I appreciate you guys being open about that and talking about it. Do you guys want to get into budget? Like how's the North Bend School Board budget doing? Are you guys in a financial bind like the cities and the county? Do you guys have big projects coming up? What's the financial situation look like?
Well, I'm really proud that we are a fiscally conservative district. our admin team works very, very hard to make our budget stretch. And we are in May, we will be having our budget hearings.
Yeah. We spend a lot of time, or our admin team spends a lot of time projecting down the road. And so we are constantly making small adjustments each year instead of waiting until it gets to the end and trying to fix it at the end of a biannual budget and making huge changes. So they're able to always be a step ahead. They plan for the shrinkage, in enrollment and in fundage, and plan accordingly with contracts and everything. So it's been wonderful to work with that admin team, because they think about the future and being fiscally responsible. It's one of the things that I've always kind of been upset with most of the boards that you see around. They don't think about their deferred maintenance and declining enrollment and all of the things that cost you money down the road. And once the boards get them in a big hole, then they go out for a huge bond, say like $60 million or something. And they want, the community to pay for their mistake. Right. And then you put that money in there, and then they go on a shopping spree, and it's gone in a couple of years, and they continue to do the same thing. If you don't fix the problems fiscally, work on it all the time, and put them in as guiding principles, then you're doomed to repeat those same things over and over, and always going to your constituents looking for a way out. And it's really nice that the North Bend School Board, our admin team, they don't do that. They rely on themselves to get that done without having to rely on the community.
There are many districts in the state that are having major layoffs, but our district is not one of those.
They have really done a great job. And Tim Kreider is the head of our business group. And Tim's, in fact, it's like from the old Star Trek, the Prime Directive was in the old Star Trek, you couldn't interfere with the planet's life, couldn't change history. So the Prime Directive, Tim has, I guess not beat into me, but coach me on, is 7% ending balance. We got to have that as a minimum.
Yes.
We have been fortunate in the 3 prior years that, with declining enrollment, you get, you're going to get, you have less students, you may get less money. And we've been able to handle the reduction in teachers through attrition. And that's primarily through retirements and then teachers moving out of the area. That's been the prior 3 years. I hope it's this year. It might be slightly different. We haven't, everything hasn't been finalized, but that is a theme in Oregon, is declining enrollment in public schools.
Yeah.
Well, that's all music to my ears. You guys seem to be doing a pretty good job. Julie, you had something to add?
Yeah. So the budgets are kind of odd. So what happens is they give us the money currently, like, here's your money based on what we think your enrollment is going to be 2 years in the future. And then if we don't meet that 2 years into the future, we have to give that money back. Yep. When we first got onto the board, we got that news where we had to get a substantial amount of money back to the state because our enrollment had dropped that much. Was it like $2 million or something?
It was a significant amount.
It was a lot of ridiculous. It was like, I was shocked, but I was like, we have to give it back because we didn't have that enrollment. So we went up and up and up for a long time, and then we just dropped really suddenly. I think the 2021 round of money, they thought that since 2019, 2020, our enrollment was still going up, that it would continue to go up. So they gave us a larger amount of money in the four, and then we didn't meet that students in seats number. So we had to give that money back. So that was a really big thing that we had to learn how to work around. And what we had is we wanted to have safety and education and academics for the kids. That were our two goals that we wanted. And we worked really well with the administration to be able to set money up for and budget for those that we had and be able to meet those and continue to meet those with the budget. So that we work so well together. It's it makes me super happy that we have the relationship that we have with the administration and that we work really well together.
Well, and as a board, we actually had the Oregon School Board Association come down to give us a training, and apparently we knew all the things they were trying to train us on. They said they were not really sure what we needed to be down here for. You guys seem to be a very high functioning board. We all got along. We were able to answer all the things. They didn't really have to train us on too much. So if we spent, I think everybody here has spent a lot of time and is pretty dedicated to knowing the things that we need to know to take care of our school district. And we're proud of it.
You guys do so much research that the city of North Bend actually complained that you guys ask too many questions. Can you believe that?
That's
the weirdest thing ever.
That was a shocking question, I think, or a shocking statement they gave us. Yeah, and they said it in kind of a way that just seemed like we were being annoying.
Yes.
That we were asking so many questions. We represent education. So we're going to ask a lot of questions. We want to fully understand something before we make a decision. I'm not just going to be like, I'm conservative, so you want more money? No. Right. I'm going to say, okay, show me why. Tell me why. Give me all of the receipts. Let me look at this thing. I want to get under the hood, take a look around. And I'm going to try and take you on your word. I'm going to listen to, the people that are coming and talking to us. And then we're going to make those decisions. But when you ask us or tell us that, I can't believe you asked so many questions. My answer to them was, I can't believe everybody else didn't ask more questions.
Yeah. They worked with a consultant for a very long time on how to use that URA money. And they gave us 45 days.
They did. They tried to steamroll it in. They tried to bring it in and say we needed to bring it up for a vote before the end of last year, I believe.
Yeah. It was.
Jim, give him all the credit. He was like, I think we should probably table this and move it to next year. We want to study it. We'd like to take a look at it. It just feels like that's not enough time to have it as an action item. And the entire board, like all 7 members agreed with that. And we took the time. We spent, our time sending in questions and asking questions after they sent in answers. We spent a lot of hours in work sessions, asking and answering, getting questions answered. Sometimes in not the way that we wanted to hear it, but we put in all that time to make an informed decision, not an idealistic, I'm going to stand on my principles decision. And in the end, it just didn't seem like the right decision for North Bend. Not because we don't think that the building should be done, that the city wants to do, that maybe there's another way. And instead of taking it as how I would, if I'm trying to do something and somebody tells me, no, you can't do it this way, I'm going to see if, maybe there's another way. Maybe I can, figure this out. And instead of the city trying to find a way to figure it out on their end, they're trying to end around it and just be able to come back in and put in some candidates. That's their way of working it out.
A lot of the board members thought it should go to a vote of the community, not the North Bend School District Board deciding that.
Yeah.
That was one of the comments that I had made at the meeting, that I'd said, if they had come forward with a vote, an advisory vote on the ballot, and they got the vote that said, 60% of North Bend residents or the full county, voted, and they say, 60% of the county is approving of this decision, and they brought that, here's the printout from the clerk's office, that would have gone so much further, than them just coming in and saying, you guys need to do this. So that was kind of a bummer that they didn't do that. But yeah, go for it. Was it Jim?
Yeah, I guess just at a high level in terms of the vision for the city. Like I said, I'm invested. This is home. I got 2 of my adult kids have come back, and hey, I want to see the city of North Bend. I want to see us free. I spent 14 years in working in communist nations, so I've got a pretty good vision of what it's like to live in a communist dictatorship. I don't want to live my remaining years in one, nor do I want my children to live in one. So
Yeah.
I want to see the city of North Bend free, prosperous, and secure. And, we want to have public safety, the police, and rule of law. And I think that's huge for, a group of people or a society that are going to be free and prosperous. And as far as the annex goes, I'd like to see it rebuilt also. I guess me personally, I would love to see that done with private funds.
Yeah.
And find a private partner there. You kind of have to, when it comes to cities, I believe you're in a bit of a beauty contest, and you got to make yourself attractive to development with respect to whether it's system development fees, how long to build a house. I would say, hey, you know what? You give me your building plan and it will be approved or not in 1 week. And if you don't hear from us in a week, consider it approved.
Hey, that's an idea.
There's a lot of that, and then making land available for developers to come in. So I wish them the best. It's a tough task, and wish them the best, because we want those guys in the city to be successful, so all the citizens can be successful. So.
Well, and they weren't being fully transparent and honest either. They've had that building for, I believe, 4 years, and when they got the building years ago, they had a lot more money in their URA budget, a lot more funds, and they decided to spend it on other projects and then come asking for more money. So they could have taken, I think they had 2 million or so when they first had the, or maybe more. And, they could have taken that money and developed the site and had it ready for a private developer. And now at this point, a private developer looking at that site, they've got to put a lot of money in it just to get it ready to build.
There's not just that. It's not just the money to get it ready to build. There's also a building behind it that they have to purchase, right? There's a theater back there that would be in the footprint of any building that would want to go there, because you're going to have parking underneath there if you're going to build a building with that many residences. But no, the city, they didn't take that $2 million and do anything with that building and remediate any of the asbestos or anything like that would make it more attractive. They could have invested that money into that project that way. To make it more attractive. What they did was they bought property inside their URA, which effectively takes it off the tax rolls for that URA. They invested in a business inside their URA. So now they're in business with North 40, which I don't think cities, actually government at all, should ever be in business. That's not their job. They
shouldn't be landlords.
No, then they should get out of the way. I don't know. There was just a lot of things, and maybe to sort of set the record straight on what they think, we said no on, or what I said no on, at least when it comes to that, in case that question is asked. The city, when they came to us, they said 30 to 70 units is what they were going to do in that building. We tried to nail them down. I can't tell you how many times. I'm sure Mary asked the question. I asked the question. Many people asked the question. How many units in the work sessions? 30 to 70. We can't give you an exact number because we don't know how much it's going to cost for the abatement of the asbestos and to tear down the building and blah, 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 blah. Totally understand. That's a reasonable answer. You can't give me an exact number. I'd love a ballpark if you could. Got nothing. For how many units? When it came time for the meeting, when everybody came in and gave testimony, I think you were there, so you heard the number 72. We were told by multiple people that sat down that there's going to be 72 units built there. That was above the 30 to 70 that we had been told. Somebody gave them that number because multiple people came in with that. I'm not sure where they got it, but that makes me nervous because that means somebody's trying to sell them a bill of goods, because we talked to the city ad nauseum and never got an exact number and never a number that high. So for me, they were uninformed or misinformed. And then the other part was, we asked the city, is this going to be transitional housing? Is this for folks that are moving into the area, trying to find a house, admin folks that come in here? Is it for, nurses who are going to be here for 3 months to a year, depending on what their contracts are? And we were repeatedly told, no, this is for family units. They were telling us how many students it would bring in, how much more that would bring into our budget. And then when people sat down and talked to us, multiple people said they have people that come to the area for jobs with them that actually have to come from Bandon. They have to come from Coquille. They have to come from Reedsport, and they drive in. And they'll do it for about a year. And then after a year, they can't find a house in the North Bend or Coos Bay area. And then they move because they can afford to. That's not going to change when you put that building there. Anybody who can afford to buy a house doesn't want to live in an apartment. The only thing it's going to change is their commute. They're still going to come in here. It's going to be transitional housing, which is what we were asking them about in the first place. And then they're going to try and find a house. And when they can't find a house, we're going to get the same thing. They might stay a little bit longer because they don't have to drive a half an hour, but that's it. So those two things were really huge for me, why I said no. But those were things that I think the city was misinforming or just, yeah.
Well, that project, they were saying it was going to cost 19 million, but they were asking for, I think it was like 40 million was the increase they were
45.
asking.
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, what were those other projects? Did they ever was that a question ever asked? I mean, did they ever specify why they needed such a high debt ceiling?
They had two projects that was part of that resolution. They had two resolutions that came. One was for the building that was going to be 30 plus units, and the 70 units, the 3270, was only if they could also demo the current city hall and integrate the city hall into that building, and then they would be able to build up all the way to the end of the block. So then you would get 30 units in the smaller one if they only got the first resolution, or 30 plus units, and then 70 units if they could get both and build City Hall into that, because City Hall is old and I guess they have a records room or an evidence room that's not locked in where the police area is. It's nothing is where it's supposed to be. It's an old building. And they say it would be too expensive to just remodel all on its own. So they thought that they would encompass that into that building.
Well, and we had a comment online that reminded me the county had another offer on that building originally. So the county sold it to North Bend. I think it was something like $50,000. And I believe there was another bid that was higher, and they decided to give it to North Bend anyway. I just don't think the public was involved enough from the beginning. I don't think they knew really what was going on, and I still don't think they do. And they're being told by North Bend that you and me and everybody, I guess, but them, is spreading misinformation about it, which is crazy, because you did your research. You asked the right questions. You asked the questions that people wanted you guys to ask, because people are rightfully concerned about all this stuff. It's somebody, where's the comment? Someone says, how dare you want to understand what you're voting for? Yeah. Trying to find, I had I actually went through and I looked at the questions that you guys had asked, because there were like 3 documents. They were like lengthy PDFs, and because you asked a lot of questions, and they were pretty informative. So if anybody else wants to look at it, it's on the City of North Bend website. It's probably under their like Urban Renewal Agency section. But I'm going to throw one of the questions here up on the screen. And you guys asked, will the taxpayers in the City of North Bend face a tax increase or new levy if this urban renewal plan does not pass? Their answer, this is the city's official answer, and this was just a few months ago. They said, no, taxpayers will not see a new tax or levy. I mean, and then I think it was actually less than a month later, they went and threw, I believe it's 3 or 4 ballot measures out there to ask the public to increase taxes. And they're not doing it because they're trying to be nice to ask the public. They're doing it because they have to. They're not allowed to raise taxes without asking the public, due to a fiasco a couple years ago. So I don't know if you guys want to address that. For me, this is like a blatant lie. You guys asked them a very direct question. They gave what should have been an honest answer that has certainly turned out to not be very honest.
Anybody wanna- That's,
No.
I mean, that's on them. I mean, we did everything that we could on our end to fully understand the question that they presented to us, and we answered, I think, in the best way that we could. Would love to have the city have input on it. It would have, like you were saying earlier, would have been better as an advisory vote. It would have given us something to look at on the way in. At least we would have understood how the community would have perceived it in a better way than just the loud voices who, you know, are going to email and maybe show up at a meeting. I know that previously those have not gone well in North Bend when it comes to fees or tax increases. And I'm not really sure how the entire community as a whole would have voted on that, but that probably would have been a better way to go. It's just, this is, you know, cities are going to try and raise money however they're going to raise money, and they're going to do what they're going to do. We can only do what we can, and what we could was just step back out of the way of being responsible for that URA, because we just didn't think it was a good decision for us.
Very cool. Appreciate, again, you guys asking all those questions. Let's move on to like books. I don't know if that's a topic for North Bend, if that's a thing that you guys are having to deal with, but all across the nation, and especially here in Oregon, we're dealing with libraries and books that are controversial, maybe inappropriate or obscene, and they're getting in the hands of the youth. And in my opinion, it's not appropriate and it needs to be dealt with. Are you guys dealing with issues like that? Do you have parents who are upset about material that's at the library or being given to students, or is that kind of a non-issue right now at North Bend?
We haven't had to deal with it.
Yeah, I don't think we've had any parents come forward with any complaints. There was one a few years ago, but then it was handled through the admin office.
Yeah.
And I think currently there's a bill at the state. I'm not sure if they passed it yet or not, but it's to take school boards out of it, that we won't be able to affect any changes in a library.
Correct.
I'm not for book banning at all. I do believe that public schools should be able to have books that are available, but they need to be
Age appropriate.
Age appropriate. They have to be, and that's, if there's a library in, you know, the grade school, then it shouldn't have anything that should be adult level stuff in there. And besides that, there's the public library where you can have whatever you want in the public library, and there is access to the public library. That I don't have a problem with. Whatever you want to put in the public library, go put in the public library. That's different. As far as education and public schools, those books need to be safe and they need to be age appropriate. And I don't believe that there's any place for inappropriate anything in a book that a child would have access to, no matter the age, in a school setting.
Well, then that's kind of the issue. It kind of gets subjective, right? So who gets to decide what is appropriate and what is not? And I guess, like you guys were mentioning, exactly, we should be making that decision locally and not have the state taking over decisions.
If they can't read the book on the state Senate floor,
exactly,
then they probably shouldn't have that in a school.
Yes.
I mean, if it's not appropriate to read out loud and put on TV for adults, then it's probably not okay for students to read. So, I mean,
isn't that crazy? Their excuse for that one was that it's aired on television or something and there are kids watching. I mean, it's like, that's the point. Crazy.
That's the point we're trying to make. If kids are watching and they're hearing that, no parent wants to have to deal with that. I mean, it should be up to them. When certain parents when you're ready for those kind of questions from your child, you want to be the one talking to them about that kind of stuff. You don't want a book doing that. And I think that's obviously more appropriate. But again, I think the bill that they got on the floor, or I think it's in the House now. Yes. It will take that out of our hands. It's been a non-issue for us so far, so we haven't had that issue here. But pretty soon we won't have to be involved.
I guess, Chris, one of the issues that kind of brings up is local control. And I believe the more local control we have, that the school board makes decisions for our community, the better. And
Yeah.
just going back in history, 3 of the 4 board members were on the board during COVID times. And a couple things, we opposed the mask mandate. We thought that was a personal decision. We opposed the vaccine mandate. I think that was same deal. That's a personal health decision to be made by individuals, not to be mandated by government.
Yes.
And I'd like to highlight that we did advocate for that, and specifically for teachers, so that they did not have to face a vaccine mandate, and they could go ahead and file. It was either exceptions or exemptions. They were messing with the word, but yeah, we advocated for the teachers not to have to take the vaccine. And then we also advocated against the lockdowns, because the science was in. It didn't take that long to know that the student population was not at serious risk as the elderly are, when you're 65 and over and have comorbidities. So anyway, that was just a little bit of history where we stood on those things.
You guys were getting some hearts online while you were talking about that. So I personally appreciate your stand on that, because I always said, if you're concerned that I'm not wearing a mask, you have the opportunity to wear 2 or 3. You can wear my mask on your face, and then you've got that extra barrier. So I'm not bothering you. But I'm very glad that those times are in the past, permanently, hopefully. Julie, anybody can answer this, but Julie, you had mentioned when we were talking about money and the school equalization fund and how the money comes in from the state based on enrollment. You had mentioned, I think you said like students in a seat is what they count for enrollment. Could somebody go into that maybe and explain, how they count enrollment? Does that include homeschool people? And what are your views on like vouchers, like, the money follows the child sort of thing, so that if somebody wanted to homeschool, they could get resources from their tax dollars to support homeschooling?
Yeah, it is based on students. They have an alphabet soup. No, I don't know what it is.
It's an algorithm.
And well, no, I mean the letters.
80.
Oh, yeah.
80.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, and I don't really know. But yeah, it is based on seats, students in the seat. It doesn't include homeschooling students, just brick and mortar students. I do believe that families should have the vouchers. I think that Oregon thankfully already has the ability to do interdistrict transfers, and I don't think that's a problem. We've already got that established. As far as money's following the student, that is something that is being tried to be worked on as far as the money following the student. Supposedly, it's been set up where it will be detached from any strings from the state and put into, I think, a 501c3 kind of a thing, where the state won't have control of that money, and it can go with the student to wherever they choose to do, either homeschooling, private schooling, or any of that kind of education that their family chooses for them to have. And the money will follow that. And if they don't use all of it, it can actually go towards college as well. I believe that is the direction it's trying to go. It's not there yet, but it is in the works.
Yeah, I guess just to make my thoughts on this transparent, I'm a supporter of school choice.
Mm-hmm.
I think student or parents, they are the legal. They're the legal owners, or I don't know if that's the right term, of their children, and they are the biggest stakeholders in their child's lives. And I think they should have the right to select whether it's private school, homeschool, whatever. And I do believe the money, or a significant portion of it, should follow the students. Yeah. And hey, we're on a public education board, but I don't think I've been involved in any endeavor, business, sports, where competition didn't make us all better. Yeah. And that's kind of one of the things where we like focus on academics. We love the career technical education. We love having the high level band and music group that we have that attracts students, and and that's also something some folk, not all, but some will when they're moving to a new new town, you got choices in Coos County, and we want the schools to be something that's going to attract them. So,
And the choices include charter schools also.
Yeah.
And I agree with school choice. And I think all of us here, though, have spent our time trying to make this district more attractive so we don't have to lose students, that they can stay in this community and in our school district. And this will actually be a successful and viable resource for them in the North Bend area.
Yeah, I think that's a big reason why we are losing students. A lot of them are unaccounted for. We don't even know where they are. And nobody knows where they are across the nation. And I believe that they're wanting to be pulled out of the schools because of the direction that it is going. So the fact that the North Bend School Board, we're kind of rare at the moment. We are mostly conservative. And so we're trying to keep that conservative setting so that we can make our district safe and reasonable and sound for our families, for our students, so we don't lose them to who knows where. If they're going to homeschooling, that's great, or private schools, that's great, and I am totally fine with that. But some people don't have that option, and I want them to be able to have a safe option at the public schools.
Gotta love more choice, always giving people a choice. The other side, liberal side, they're about choice, right? Isn't that they've rallies about freedom of choice? Anyways, my dog was yelling, yay, free choice. She was shouting while you guys were talking. Sorry about that. Very cool. Well, it's been an hour, so I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I know you guys are busy running for your school board positions, but you guys had talked about running as a slate. Like what's that like? Why did you decide to do that? And I don't know, maybe you guys can go around the room and do one more last minute thing, unless you guys had more stuff you wanted to talk about.
Mostly just for voters' ease, so that they know. Clearly somebody thinks we're not doing a good job because we're all conservative that are running, and it's supposed to be a nonpartisan position, and I understand that. But the people who are running against us are all either a Democrat or a liberal. So I don't know what they think that we are doing wrong, that they think that they need to take us out. I want the voters to be able to understand that the balance is, the votes count. If we have a certain number of yays or nays on one side or the other, that in order to pass policies, get things done in a mindful manner, that, that we cooperate together. It's just easier for the voter to be able to know that, all four of these names go together. These are the ones that are incumbent, and it's for ease of voters' information, because if they see another name on there, that it's going to be a nonpartisan race. And so there's no R or D or I or N behind anybody's name. So I think that's why I wanted to run as a slate, is just for ease of voters' information.
Well, and I also think it's because we get along so well. Mm-hmm. This board works together. We do our homework. We ask questions. We're respectful of one another. And we work really hard together, and we love our district.
Yeah, I'd second that. Yeah, we have, we'll have some discussions, and my preference is blood, guts, and feathers, where you leave nothing unsaid.
Yeah.
And that way it's all been put out on the threshing floor. And, it's, we're looking at being student-centered and making the best decisions for students. I think, we've been together, the three of us been together coming up on 4 years. So friendships have developed, and we're like-minded on many, many topics. So that was part of the reason for the slate.
And for me, running with the slate, I couldn't pick more amazing people. As a matter of fact, our entire board. I mean, if we could all seven of us run, I would be happy to run with all of us.
Yeah.
Everybody gets along.
Yeah.
It's been a great board, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with the groups before this, but for the better part of a decade before this board all got together, there was a lot of infighting between the board and the superintendents. It's very dysfunctional for a long period of time, and that doesn't serve students.
Yeah.
That hasn't happened here. But trust me, we may all be conservative, but we don't always agree. So there are a lot of discussions in work session where we start out and yep, we're going to do this. And well, we get almost there and then we pull it back. And because we really are trying to do the right thing. Each one of us wants excellence for our students. And so we work really hard together. And yeah, these people are great. That's why I'm sitting here with them.
Why mess up a good thing? You know,
Don't fix it if it ain't broke.
There you go. And if there's people confused as to what you guys bring to the table and what you guys have done, maybe you could send them a link to this interview we've done, and they can educate themselves. Because I think we covered some broad topics, and from what I can see, you guys are doing a pretty good job. I've talked with people in Bandon and Coos Bay for school boards, and it's not the same conversation. You know, they're very confused on issues. They're heading in different directions. They're more aligned with the state, the direction the state politics are going, which if you look at any metrics for Oregon versus other states in our nation, it's not good. So they're also in bad financial situations. I mean, you just had Bandon put on a construction tax. They added a tax to try and help fund some of their school projects without a vote of the people. And you know, that's something that you guys haven't done, because you guys, like you explained today, you've been fiscally conservative. So I think people can appreciate that, and I certainly do. So but yeah, do you guys have anything else? If speak now or forever hold your peace.
Well, it's just been an honor to be on the board, and I ask for everyone's vote.
Yeah. Same.
Absolutely. Yeah. And thank you, Chris, for giving us this opportunity and the platform.
Yeah,
We'll
no
see you on
problem.
the
This is
League
what
of
it's all
Women's
about.
Voters next.
Thank you,
There you
Chris.
go.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. And the election's in May. I think it's May 20th, and then people get
Yes.
their ballots.
Ballots are
probably
mailed out
beginning of the
April
month.
30th.
April 30th
April.
to May 7th. They'll be mailing out ballots. Yep.
Wow. Well, it's just around the corner. Good luck at the League of Women Voters. It's an interesting crowd there. But yeah, good luck. They usually ask good questions, so we'll see.
Yeah.
But thanks for being on the show, and good luck with your